The format of this meeting is a 10-minute speaker, a 10-minute coffee break, and then a main speaker. Tonight, our first speaker is Anderson. Help me welcome Anderson.
Hey everybody, I'm Anderson. I'm an alcoholic. Yeah, my sponsor asked me to speak, and I was willing to do it. I don't like to follow time ever. So, but I got to town, my sobriety date's January 15th, 2017, and I've tried to get sober for, probably 14 years. That was the first time I went to treatment before, and, I'm not going to get into a bunch of my past, my unmanageability and everything. Like, my story as far as my past and what got me here isn't that unique from all of ours. Sure, I was powerless, my life's unmanageable. The questions that I needed to answer is why hadn't I been able to do this before? Why hadn't I been able to get sober when I tried to? Because I'd gone to plenty of meetings, heard how it works 1,000 times, and there are parts in it that I just didn't pull out. Like, this program can seem overwhelming at the beginning, and it's almost like when I was a kid, when I'd get video games, I'd just pop them right in and I wouldn't read the instruction manual. The good thing about this program is it comes with an instruction manual. There are the literature that they give us, it has, and it speaks pretty clearly about how this can be done and how it can work. I'm from Shreveport, Louisiana. I'm sure you can tell that I'm not from around here. So, but I had a guy, my first therapist, when I went to treatment, we've stayed close, gotten almost like family. And, I've even lived with him trying to get sober, and he's kind of stayed behind me, and he sponsored me through the steps while I'm in treatment, and then I've got a sponsor here in town now. But he's like, the question that you really have to answer for yourself is, just like it says in the book, are you really ready to concede to your innermost self that you're an alcoholic? And I was like, well, yeah, I'm an alcoholic. He's like, obviously you don't believe that. And he's like, do you remember telling me about 2 years ago? It's like, oh man, I just like to have fun. I've been doing this since college. He goes, I got news for you, big boy. You ain't in college anymore. You're a 38-year-old raging alcoholic. And he was right. I drink till the consequences show up. I manipulate till the consequences show up. It doesn't matter who I hurt, what I destroy, as long as I can continue to drink and use. It didn't matter. None of that stuff was important to me. The number one value in my life was my addiction to alcohol and drugs. There's nothing I wouldn't trade off for. Most things that you would think that would be important, my family, my job, my finances. If it meant that I couldn't get, alcohol and drugs, I would sacrifice all of that stuff. And so what does it mean to fully concede to my innermost self that I'm an alcoholic? Well, just like I said, it gives us an instruction manual. The doctor's opinion defines it as, a disease of the mind, and then, it manifests as an allergy when I, ingest mind-altering substances into my body, and that's absolutely right. If I drink or use to the point of the consequences show up, that makes me different than most people that do it. I'll even used to be like, yeah, I do have that obsession that I could just use drugs like a normal person. I got news for everybody. Normal people don't use drugs. And that's the thing. The delusion that we are like other people, or presently may be, has to be smashed. So it's okay. How do I do that? And Christian just read how it works for us, and there's a couple things in here, and very rarely do I find that the book or the literature talks in complete absolutes, but it says, some of us have tried to hold on to our old ideas, and the result was nil until we let go absolutely. Not the result that, it'd be all right for a little bit. No. The result was nil. It may not be today, it may not be tomorrow, but I am going to burn the goddamn house down before it's over with. That's just my story. I live without the thought of consequence when I'm drinking and using. I have a little bit of mindfulness now of, the way I carry myself through the day. Another thing that how it works is half measures availed us nothing. Again, nothing. So I have to do it all the way. And the last thing it says, we ask his protection and care with complete abandon. We have to learn how to let go absolutely, 100%. And I had to be invested 100%. And the first step was me as admitting that I'm an alcoholic. Admitting that I've got a progressive and fatal mental illness that, left unchecked by these 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous and this program that's been put together and been offered to me, is going to kill me. You know, and then, again, it may not kill me today, it may not kill me tomorrow, but it will settle for me drunk. It will settle for me hurting people. It will settle for me setting aside all the values that I would like to think that I have and think that I was raised with. But at the end of the day, the substance is much more important. That's just the harsh reality of the situation. As much as I hate to admit that, that's the truth. I like the part in the acceptance prayer because I feel like, the first step talks about admitting we were powerless and unmanageable. Like, what is admitting something? Like, my sponsor had me define that. He goes, you can't just admit, yeah, I was powerless and unmanageable. He goes, you have to take ownership of it. You have to take ownership of the fact that you're an alcoholic. And to be an alcoholic means, yeah, I'm powerless, my life's unmanageable, the wheels are going to come off, and that's not, they might come off, they are going to come off. And in the acceptance prayer, before it gets into, until I can accept life on life's terms, and, nothing in God's world happens by mistake, it has this sentence: unless I could accept my alcoholism, I could not stay sober. Isn't that the goal? To stay sober. That's the goal I have today, and it's because I've been able to accept my alcoholism. It's because I've been able to take ownership of it and realize and remember it every day. When I would make decisions when I'm drinking and using, is I'm filtering them all by, okay, how is this going to get me closer to what I need to get? And now if I can filter decisions like, hey, you're an alcoholic, you know what this decision is going to mean for you, I can be mindful of that, and it helps me make those decisions with that filter that I'm an alcoholic. It lets me know what I can and cannot do. And that's important for me. It makes life a whole lot easier to be able to live with that filter. It's like, look, you can't do that. You're an alcoholic. You can't go have a couple drinks. You're an alcoholic. You're going to close the bar down, and then you're probably going to drive home drunk, and then you're probably going to get a DWI. That might not happen tonight, but probably Saturday. That's how quick it happens. In the 12 and 12, more on talking about admitting we're alcoholics, it goes on to say, more sobriety brought about by the admission of alcoholism and by attendance at a few meetings is very good indeed, but it is bound to be a far cry from permanent sobriety and a contented, useful life. That is just where the remaining steps of the AA program come in. Nothing short of continuous action upon these as a way of life can bring the much desired result. There it is in black and white right there. It tells me exactly what I've got to do to try to get the desired result. And, it says if you want what we have and are willing to go to any length to get it, you're ready to take certain steps. When I walked in, I didn't know if I wanted what y'all had, but I knew I wanted something different. This was certainly something different. And so I decided to give that a shot, because different for me was exponentially better, because emotionally my life was in the toilet. It was a suicide attempt that brought me to the decision to go to treatment. And, how do you get to a place like that? It's by being emotionally bankrupt. And it's the alcohol that caused that. My character defects are as such that I love self-pity. I love to be selfish. I love to look down on myself. And being able to have some conscious contact with a higher power and be able to try to remove those is an extremely freeing experience. It is the ability to be honest about my assets and my deficiencies. It's like, okay, if you know your deficiencies, at least you can defend against them. And to be able to operate, thinking, is this addict behavior or not? To be able to filter my thoughts thinking that, it's a lot easier to make a decision, yes or no, to do something. This program brought me some awareness of who I was when I'm drinking and using and who I'd like to be. I take it 24 hours at a time. If I can go to bed at night, at the end of the day, if I'm sober and I'm on the right side of the dirt, that's good enough. Like, some days aren't great, but I'm sober and I'm breathing. That's a 180-degree change from the way it was almost 2 years ago. Because I certainly wasn't sober, and the chance of death was certainly in the equation. Because that's the way that I drink and use. It goes on to say, we're offered a daily reprieve based upon the maintenance of our spiritual condition. Again, another instruction. That spiritual condition must be maintained. I have a routine I do in the morning. A lot of people have heard this. My sponsor made me get a hula hoop, put it under my bed. He said, all right, pull it out in the morning and call me. I was like, all right. He's like, now get down on your knees and say the Serenity Prayer in that hula hoop, and then call me back. So I said, he goes, you know that last part about the wisdom to know the difference between things you can and cannot change? I said, yeah. He said, I'm about to give it to you. Everything that you cannot change is outside that hula hoop. So it lets me know that I've got to work on me. I can't change any of y'all. I can change how I react to certain situations. I can change how I, view my own problems. I can change how I can view my own alcoholism. I can be honest about who I am. I mean, I've written it on my bathroom mirror because I can't forget it. I'm an alcoholic. I see it every morning. Not a big deal. It just lets me how I know what I have to avoid during the day. It allows me the ability to know how to conduct myself in the way that I would like to. A few last things. The book also goes on to say, nothing so much ensures immunity from drinking as intensive work with another alcoholic. And so that's incredibly true. I'd never got to the point where I had sponsees before. Shit. I'd never really worked with a sponsor before. And once I did that and let somebody else kind of give me advice and take the wheel, things got easier. It just made sense. Yeah, the hula hoop thing sounds ridiculous, but I did it. And then, something good came out of it. So when they would suggest something else that I do that I thought maybe wouldn't work, do it anyway. And that's what I did. It's like my journey through the steps, I kind of break them down. In 1 through 3, I was offered the opportunity to give it up. 4 through 7, I was offered the opportunity to clean it up. 8 and 9, I could make it up. And 10 through 12, I keep it up. And that's the way I try to go, through the day. Practice these principles in all my affairs. And the last thing I'll leave you with, this is another reading I read every morning. Keeping sober is the most important thing in my life. The most important decision I ever made was my decision to give up drinking. I am convinced that my whole life depends on not taking that first drink. Nothing in the world is as important to me as my own sobriety. Everything I have, my whole life depends on that one thing. Can I ever afford to forget this, even for a minute? I'm Anderson, and I'm an alcoholic.